listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And our main radio website, where you can listen to the X-Zone 724-365, as well as the live broadcast, www.xzoneradiotv.com. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Jeffrey Armstrong. And Jeffrey is an author, speaker, mystic, poet, astrologer, Vedic scholar, and he's the founder of the VASA Vedic Academy of Sciences and Arts. He is a former Silicon Valley executive and motivational speaker to Fortune 500 companies. Trained as a monk in the traditional way for 5 years, Jeffrey is also a best-selling author and award-winning poet who has studied and taught ancient Eastern philosophy for over 40 years. He has degrees in psychology, history, and comparative religion and English literature, and is also grounded in daily meditation practice. Featured in the CBC documentary Planet Yoga and Take Back Your Power. Joining me now is Jeffrey Armstrong. And Jeffrey, welcome to the X-Zone.
Good evening, Rob. Thank you.
My goodness, 604, British Columbia?
Mm-hmm. Vancouver.
There you go. Hamilton, Ontario.
I've heard of you.
Yeah, and there you are.
A good friend of mine was from there, actually.
Well, you know what? You know what I'm saying here, my friend? It takes Canadians to get this message around the world.
Well, and I'm a hybrid because I was born in Detroit.
Oh, my gosh.
And I converted. I have both passports. So I'm both bold and polite. And in Detroit, we knew that Canada wasn't the 52nd state. We knew that actually it was a country.
Well, one day we will be the 52nd state.
Let us hope not.
First of all, welcome to the show, my friend. Great having you with us. Congratulations on all your endeavors and what you do. And you know, I have to ask you a question. You're considered a Western-born ambassador of the culture and wisdom of India. What does that mean?
Well, perhaps I'm living proof of reincarnation. But it means that when I go to India, and as Caucasian as you would see me if you were looking at me, and I begin to chant Sanskrit and go, Yasyam Samudra Bhuta Sindhurabo, chanting just like one of the Brahmin priests. They go, oh my God, he swallowed a Hindu. This is Nick Nolte. Why he's chanting Sanskrit? And so, on one side, I have adopted the culture to its very, very core. But on the other side, I am a product of the 60s. I'm 69 years old. I am lived a full 69 years here in the West as well. And so I really bridge both cultures, going back and forth between the two. So I sometimes jokingly say I'm an import-export because I export the knowledge of India back to India, a troubled country because it was colonized for 1,000 years, and I import their knowledge to the burgeoning yoga culture in the rest of the world.
What was it that happened in the life of Jeffrey Armstrong that started you on your quest, started you on your crusade into doing the many things you have done to this date at a very early age of 69?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it'll make more sense now when I say this than it would have when I started. But I actually understood at a quite young age that everyone was lying to me, either on purpose, which was the minority, or by accident because they didn't know. So I had this very uncomfortable feeling once I understood this, and I never trusted my elders. So I began a search for truth that was truly global. I didn't limit myself to my culture. So I began looking everywhere. And in India, what I did find is the oldest written and still active repository of ancient wisdom, the oldest library of ancient wisdom that is still active and accessible, and it's in Sanskrit, which is the mother language of all the languages we speak.
So what is the basic, or what is the primary philosophical difference between Western civilization and the knowledge that you share?
Well, in colloquial terms, it's sometimes said like this, that we're not humans having a spiritual experience. We're divine beings having a human experience. So from the perspective of the Eastern knowledge, of the knowledge of India, we are immortal beings, and each one of us, every living entity, from the trees to the insects to the humans, all of them, all of us, are really amazing immortal beings, and we're here exploring this realm called the material world. So I call it a university, not a universe, but it's a place where we've all come to learn many, 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 many things. So that view is different than a one-lifetime-only view, which Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and modern science are limited by. So in spite of whatever benefits and gifts they may have, everyone in Western civilization is limited by the notion that they have only one life.
And yet, speaking to these people over the many years I've been doing the show, Jeffrey, more and more people are realizing that this is more than a one-hit wonder life, that we have come and we keep coming back and back and back.
As they call it in the South, reincarnation.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Because if we don't have that, life is absurd, and existentialism grew out of that absurdity. The Kurt Vonnegut's and all of these very perspicacious philosophers saw that a one-lifetime program is abusive and insulting to our intelligence and is also just plain ridiculous. I like what Helen Keller said. She said, I believe in the immortality of our true self because I have within me immortal longings.
How do you convince, or how do you try to present an argument to a non-believer, to a skeptic, that there is more to life than we understand it, that this is not a one-hit wonder that we are in?
Yeah. Well, this is a great question because it's what attracted me to the knowledge of India and the way that they have always presented it. It is ambassadorial, it is not coercive, and it is not by conversion, it is by conversation. So you actually don't try to convince someone until they're ready for the conversation, till they have enough trust in you and enough fire to know in themselves. They're really not ready for the conversation. So the rule for this knowledge is that you must never try to force it. It's a little bit like the mandate in Star Wars. Don't force unevolved civilizations to know truths they're not ready for. So this makes for a very good biodiversity and a relaxed philosophical conversation style coming from India that is very different than conversion and jihad and trying to force people to do things they're not ready for.
So basically, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
And sometimes the teacher appears before the student is ready, but you ask questions, and if they're not ready, they'll never know who you were.
Why India? Why is India such a mystical place? Why does all the focus of great mysticism, great wonders, great knowledge go back to India?
Well, have you ever lived in Hawaii or been to Hawaii?
No, I wish.
Okay. So I've lived in Hawaii several times, and until I did, being from Detroit, I thought that the climate of the world was my enemy.
Okay.
But after I lived in Hawaii, I learned to relax, and that's what they say there. They say, shaka bra, Take it easy. Relax. You'll live longer. Don't fight. Because in Hawaii, for the first time in your life, you actually see there's fruit falling on the ground. The climate is good all year round. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
You're fine. So India had 12 rivers and an abundance of food, and the whole country was a perfect kind of place to develop a cooperative society. So for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, India has been that. And so somehow it was one of the great places on our planet that was seeded with higher thought, where great visitations of the divine took place, and where a very high technology of language took place, the Sanskrit language, which precedes Latin, Greek, Aramaic, Hebrew, Phoenician, English, the European languages, and is a kind of programming language that allows us to keep knowledge clear over thousands and thousands of years without playing post office and having it get confused.
Speaking about, keeping things clear, you were an executive with Apple going back to the 80s. And how does this affect what you're doing now, and what have you learned by being part of the world of Apple?
Well, it had a very interesting reaction on me. I had zero interest in technology before that time. Got the job out of necessity. I had a family at the time.
Sure.
And just by circumstance, they hired me to be their Middle Eastern sales manager, choosing me out of 250 other applicants. And you know why? I walked in the room. It was full of Egyptians, and I said, Salam alaikum. They said, Alaikum salam. I said, Kayfa halik? They said, Alhamdulillah. Who are you? I had a degree in history and comparative religion. So I'd studied the Quran, I'd studied the culture. So I became a cultural emissary. So I was Apple's representative to 30 Apple dealers in the Arab countries. And I was an ambassador between this world and the world of technology in the Middle East. So I learned two things. Through that, I learned to be an ambassador. And through technology, I learned that what I had seen in comparative religion was taking place again. That technology was not a science, it was a new religion. Everyone has taken to technology as if it's just good, as if it's all fine. It is as if whatever modifications it makes to us or our children is just normal. Well, there's nothing normal about technology, and yet I saw everyone doing it as if it was a religion. They just believed in it. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Praise the motherboard.
But does that...
I see it today, too. Everyone has firm faith in technology. Yep. It's like a religion.
Well,
Can't be wrong.
Well, you know what? I wait for the time when there's another solar flare and everything is knocked out and all these technological wonders that we have are no longer of any use to anyone because the grid is down, the Wi-Fi is down, the cell towers are down, the microwaves are down. It's going to
get down to some real socializing, right?
Can you just imagine that, Jeffrey?
I know. No more in your Facebook.
Exactly. So are we looking at India? And if we scrape everything down, are we looking at a binary civilization? The core civilization where the Sanskrit was written, the religion, the philosophy, the mysticism actually started from and then was carried out around the world?
It certainly is the seed pod of what we now call culture around the world. Mm-hmm. The linguistic evidence is overwhelming now. The word Russia is from Rishi, a Sanskrit word. Scandinavia is from Skanda, and their book is called the Veda, which is the same as the Veda. The Mayan culture in South America has 300 Sanskrit words in it. So there's clear evidence of seafaring, traveling the world by both China and India in long time before we recognized it. Essentially, what we call history is a redacted history to suit our modern purposes and justify colonization and where we're headed politically.
Yeah.
But it is not an honest history of the world. And, of course, we don't have all the evidence, but at least India is, if you will, a time capsule that, as damaged as it is after 1,000 years of colonization, the amazing thing is that it survived that, and yoga is spreading without anyone putting any money into it in India. You know that Christianity, billions are spent each year to spread it around the world. The same for Islam. no one has spent 10 rupees on spreading Hinduism around the world, and now there's a couple 100 million yoga practitioners.
Yeah.
So it is some kind of long-term historical seed pod that is definitely carrying important ideas, and they're presented as universal truths, just like science presents itself. The ideas are not presented essentially as religion. They're presented as something you decide whether you're going to do something with it. And that's the other part that I really love. It's definitely for the individual to decide. It's called moksha. It means it's heading you toward personal freedom.
You know, when we look at the big picture, it seems that the lies that are being carried on throughout the years when it comes to the actual history of the world is being perpetrated by academia. It seems that for some reason they want to keep us in the dark. They want, it's the mushroom effect, keep me in the dark and feed me nothing but crap. Because we know for a fact that Christopher Columbus did not discover the Americas. We know that the Vikings were on this side before. We know that the Irish monks who were in a little dinghy and got lost ended up in some part in the United States. But you know what? Why not tell us the truth?
Because we're all being treated as children. So once upon a time, if you control history, you control the present, after all. History can't repeat itself unless you know it.
That's right.
And in this case, it's the positive side. Unless you really have a broader view. But broad-minded people, the intention of real democracy, are the enemy of demagoguery. And so we need small-minded people, don't we? It's much more convenient.
But isn't it?
So the opposite is true in India. It builds broad-minded people.
But isn't it true that even according to some Christian scholars that Christ actually went to India, that he also learned a great deal of information and was open to the learnings of the great yogis back then?
That's a great question. My answer to that is in the 60s, I went to Berkeley, and India came to me.
Like that.
I didn't have to go. So Jesus had the same experience. Whether or not he went to India doesn't matter, because Alexandria was the largest university in the Western world at that time, Middle Eastern and Western world, and it was in Egypt, and Jesus was in exile in Egypt for 30 years. He was a very smart Jewish boy, destined to become quite the reformer.
Yep.
So which university do you think he would go to? Alexandria.
Makes sense.
And there was the Library of Alexandria, which had text from China, from India, from all over the world, and professors from those places teaching there. In the time of Christ, there was 150 ships a year going from Rome to India.
And
150 ships a year.
And we also know that during the time of Christ, there were ships that were leaving the Mediterranean and coming over to North America. We know that.
That's right.
Once again.
Because this knowledge would make us broad-minded, global citizens of the universe, holding a larger perspective, seeing beyond our skin in politics, to have respect for one another and for all living beings. And we wouldn't tolerate the things that we're now calling life, or food, or politics.
I often have said on this show and the interviews that I do that the problems that we're facing as a society are because we do not understand, we do not respect each other. When I was a kid growing up, I lived in the multicultural area of Montreal. I went to Barclay School in Park Extension. My friends were Greek, they were Italians, they were Indian, they were, you name it, we all hung out together. We learned about each other's culture, we celebrated each other's holidays, and we learned. And I can't remember, and I was asking my mom and dad this, God, thank the good Lord, they're still with us these days. When I was a kid, they cannot remember any of the negativity that we have in today's society against other religions. We learned. We exchanged information. We found out about them, their holidays, their culture, and we respected each other. And I think that this is what is the big problem today, is that there is no more respect, and I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and as far as religions go, remember, the word religion is religare. it means a book of rules. So a reasonable person with a book of rules applies them to themselves, teaches by example, and makes friends with everyone else and hopes they'll also catch on. An unreasonable person says, these are the rules, and I'll kill you if you don't follow them. But it doesn't have to be a religion to do that, but anyone who does that is unwelcome in civil society. So anyone with a book of rules that they want us to follow at gunpoint is definitely not welcome in a democratic society. Everyone else who doesn't want to do that is completely welcome. That's always been what democracy was hoping for.
The key word there is hoping for. Jeffrey,
isn't it just?
Jeffrey, you and I have to take a small break. Please stand by. Thank you so much for joining us. Great talking to you. Exonation, our guest this hour is Jeffrey Armstrong. His website, www.jeffreyarmstrong.com. That's www.jeffreyarmstrong.com. This is the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network and our growing family of broadcast affiliates. And now the X Zone is in Belgium, on Belgium's only English-speaking commercial radio network. www.xzoneradiotv.com is where you can listen to the X Zone 724, 365. And you can listen to the live broadcast Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight. Once again at www.xzoneradiotv.com. Jeffrey Armstrong and I will return after this short break as we continue investigating the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Starr does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you were able to give factual information, and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Starr does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Starr or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com. You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Wilda Wiecka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Wilda Wiecka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Good real estate websites are not just about showing listings, but offering visitors valuable information about neighborhoods, market statistics, tips, and personal insights. Luckily, you will find that on Roost, but you won't on many other real estate websites in Budapest. That's why we created Roost. Roost is a website with tailored results for the foreign investor, curated by Hungarian-loving expats who found their home abroad and decided to roost in Budapest. Let Roost help you get started on the right foot. Whether you intend to live, work, play, retire, or simply invest abroad, Roost offers all types of properties in Budapest, from affordable studios to luxury homes. From neighborhood insights like where to grab a great coffee or how to buy property, our team of local experts can answer your questions and speak to the direct concerns of a foreign investor. Buying foreign property is an exciting and complex adventure. It can also be very time-consuming and costly if you don't have the best information and resources at hand. Roost provides professional real estate services and assistance to an international clientele of foreign property investors and rental apartment owners in Budapest. For more information on Roost, visit their website at www.roost.co. That's www.rooste.co.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
www.jeffreyarmstrong.com is the website address for our guest this hour, Jeffrey Armstrong. And first of all, Jeffrey, thanks very much for joining us. Great having you with us.
It's great to be with you, Rob. Namaste.
Namaste to you, my friend. What changes have you, Jeffrey Armstrong, seen over the last, let's say, even 20 years that lead you to believe that there is a chance for this planet, there is a chance for this race of ours to get our crap together and live as one?
You know, I have a favorite cartoon from Gary Larson. It shows a Tyrannosaurus Rex at a blackboard with a pointer, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I've got bad news and worse news. The bad news is the Ice Age is coming on sooner than we thought.
Mm-hmm.
The worst news is we all have brains the size of a walnut.
How true. How very
So,
true.
there's good news and bad news.
All right, well, let's put the
good news... No, wait. The good news is that people are waking up.
Yes.
And that we're at the tipping point in technology, and hence, if oil was at $150 a barrel when the economy crashed, and now it's forced to 27, we're in the midst of World War III, which is the dinosaurs fighting over the remaining oil while they try to figure a way to keep the world from going on to better technologies. And I don't believe they're going to win. I think it's just a matter of time before superior technologies that can't be controlled in the same way and don't have the same toxic side effects are actually a reasonable alternative. So I'm a ancient and technological optimist.
Do you believe that there are powers within the governments who could actually suppress the development of fossil-free fuel and energy-friendly devices?
No, because they can't control all the countries in the world. Clearly, Russia is right now saying, GMO, guess what? You're not going to take us over with it. And India is going to go down the same different road because they have a lot of the sunlight. So why would they worry about oil when they could have solar? So the billions of people, the billion and some change people in India who are under 30, 70% are under 30, are definitely not going to do what somebody tells them to do in America.
I was reading something in the Wall Street Journal earlier today where in Saudi Arabia, they have now opened up the largest solar power energy farm in the world.
No, I mean, it's inevitable and it's unstoppable. It's only a matter of time. And the only reason it's being slowed, in my opinion, is that the people who are in control of the other resources are trying to find a way to control that. But it's not going to be controllable. It's going to be regional. And because of that, it's going to change the game automatically. And it's not going to have the kind of carbon footprint that everything else has. So along with that, 50% of our fossil fuel problem, meaning our carbon in the atmosphere, is coming from eating the wrong foods. So I'll tell you a great story. My sister is in public relations. She was at a food conference a while back, and the CEO of McDonald's and the CEO of Natural Foods were speaking in a row. And the first one got up and said, of Whole Foods, and he said, 100 years from now, our children are going to think we were insane for eating meat and almost destroying the planet. And when he got off stage and went into the green room, the president of McDonald's started yelling at him, and they almost got in a fist fight.
Wow.
And I thought, gee, that's perfect, because we can't afford to eat four-legged animals and feed the planet. The problem's not hunger. The problem is eating four-legged animals and trying to feed the whole planet, because it's not our natural food. It'll destroy everything. As soon as we make reasonable foods and feed them to everyone, that problem will also go away. So the problems have been approached wrong, and we've been given the propaganda that they're unsolvable.
You see, I believe, Jeffrey, that the majority of the problems that we have today are created by greedy people who look for ways to put money in their pockets. They don't give a darn about you. They don't give a darn about me, our families, or anything else except how much money they can stuff in their pockets. For example, humans are the only species who drink the milk of another species. And I'm talking about cows. Like, when you look at the entire food chain, were we really supposed to eat eat meat? I don't think so.
No. And you know, if you want a yogic, a Sanskrit terminology for this, it's very simple. The term is Deva and Asura.
Deva and Asura?
Mm-hmm. Deva means with the light, and
right.
Asura means against the light. So the simpler way to say this is that we have a choice of becoming one of two kinds of entities on the body of Mother Earth, parasite or symbiote.
Well, from what I see, we're becoming the biggest parasites on her, and God help us when Mother Earth gets fed up and decides to get rid of the tick on her skin.
That's right. Well, that's the wild card in the deck. But at least a lot more people are beginning to understand that they have a choice between being a parasite or a symbiote, and a symbiote is someone who gets along with everyone as much as possible, works symbiotically on the earth, and cares about the future of their children and the planet.
And the rest of the people living on this planet as well. I don't know, Gary, Jeffrey, if you remember this commercial. There was it opens up with a scene of garbage dumps and garbage piles and tractors, and then the camera zooms into a Native American on a horse on a hill with a tear coming down his eye.
It certainly could be Chief Pontiac, who said we should always act as if we're caring for 7 generations into the future.
That's right.
And another thing, there's a marvelous book that describes how the American Constitution was given to us by the Iroquois Confederation of First Nations.
You're kidding.
I met the chief who co-wrote the book. His name was Chief Jake Swamp, and it's how the Constitution, what they called the Law of Peace of the Iroquois, the Iroquois chiefs came to Washington in 1776 and let them copy their constitution for democracy, and it became the so-called U.S. Constitution.
So let me get this. Let me get this straight. The Iroquois go down to Washington, D.C., allow them to copy their constitution, and then the Americans send it up to Philadelphia. Oh my God!
And then they annihilate all the tribes. But they did one more thing. They left out 3 important things from the Iroquois Constitution. You ready?
Yes, sir.
The women were the choosers of the chief. Number 2, the women were in charge of the military.
Yeah.
And number 3, the women were the judiciary. And this is what we've left out of democracy.
But
we got it sense from the Iroquois, and we left out the 3 parts that keep it in balance.
But it makes perfect sense, because when you look at the great times throughout history, you've got Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria, Margaret Thatcher. These women were strong. These women were just. These women were level-headed. These women brought Cleopatra. The list goes on and on and on. So it's just not apparently the church that decided to poo-poo women, but also government?
Well, as a matter of fact, if we go back to India now, this is the thing that has always been true there. That the divine, whatever the divine may ultimately be, is for certain both male and female. Mm-hmm. If you want, in nature, it's mountains and valleys. However you want to see it, it is male and female. In fact, this is a mistranslation from the Hebrew scripture, which actually says, in their image made they them, not in his image made he them, because you don't make a them in the image of a he. So the revolution that's sweeping the yoga world and the whole planet right now from India is that the divine is male and female, because the divine created male and female. And who would like to tell me that the female is not divine and only the male is? Anyone knows from common sense that if anyone's divine, it's the female, not the male.
Exactly, because my favorite saying is a happy wife, a happy life.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, in India, they call the home Griha, and Griha means the place where birth takes place.
That's right.
The man is in service of life, and the woman is life.
Yeah. Because
and she's the representative of the divine, if anything.
Because without the woman, there can be no furtheration of life.
Nothing. And no joy. So this is the common sense but amazing teaching that's been passed on there, that the Abrahamic religions turned against at a certain point historically for some reason. Interesting as why, but they did, and when they did, then the female was persecuted, misunderstood, purposely not understood, called too complicated, and so on and so on. Instead of exalted, trusted, placed in positions of responsibility, listened at every council, heard from in all that we do.
And yet it's Mother Earth, not Father Earth.
So glad you said that. So in Sanskrit, Mother Earth is called Bhumi. Ready?
Yeah.
Bhumi. Now drop the B. What do you get?
Umi.
Humi. Homie. Humus. Homie. Yo, homie. You my homie. You my omi. You my homie. We're both made of a humus. It's from Bhumi. She's called Mata Bhumi. So human is from the word for Mother Earth. We're all made of the same stuff. Why can't we treat each other with that love and respect? That's the basic viewpoint of yoga, of the whole Eastern world, is just see each other as divine, treat all living entities with respect, and act like this place is somewhere we're temporarily visiting and leave it nice for the next generation.
But that makes
not too complicated.
That makes too much sense. That is way too easy. You know, I have a very simple philosophy in life. Life is simple. Humans complicated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The way the yogis say that is, you are simple, the mind is complicated. And so, going beyond the mind is the goal of yoga. That's the whole point of meditation, is to go beyond it. That's what a mantra means. It means going beyond, manas trayate, going beyond the duality of the mind and the argument of the mind to things that are always true, and seeing those clearly, and then having the discernment to treat everyone correctly with love, respect, and honor, and dignity. Mitakuyasan, as the Lakota say, all my relations. We're all related. We're all a big family.
You know, there's something I have never understood. And, you know, I've been around here, not 69 years, I've been around here 63 years. And I could never understand when you look at the cowboys and Indians scenario that all kids go through when they're little. Well, I guess they don't go through that anymore. But,
not anymore, hopefully.
But you know what? The Indians were the bad guys, and the cowboys were the good guys. And I always looked at it, well, wait a minute. We're the invaders taking their land. So why can't we get history straight? What do we have to lose by getting history straight and being honest with people and saying, no, you know what? We lied to you. This is what really happened. Let's get the record straight. Let's start over.
Good. So let's do another India tie-in. Exactly. So guess what? There's a YouTube of Carl Sagan walking in a temple in India, and he says, only ancient India and modern science calculated the age of the universe in billions of years. And then he pauses and says, India must have done it by coincidence, because his knowledge only went so far. But the fact is, India didn't do it by coincidence, and the truth is, it's trillions of years. And that for hundreds and thousands of years, the people of India have calculated the age of the universe in trillions of years. And when they light a fire and offer something into it, they say the time in the universe according to cosmic time in trillions of years.
Trillions.
And this was going on when the British went to India and thought the universe was 4,600 years old, created on a Thursday. So this was the primitive culture that the sophisticated British culture took over, with a worldview of 5,000 years compared to one of 30 trillion as the age that a universe lasts. It's a matter of perspective. And when our perspective is taken away and we're made small, then we're manipulated. We're sheep.
That's right.
We're no longer holding a big worldview.
You know,
so this is the truth of India. It's this ancient worldview that's big, and it makes you big by knowing it, and humble.
And I really believe, Jeffrey, that the religious philosophies of the world have suppressed the evolution of our societies, the evolution of humans, because even when you look at Christianity, the Lord is my shepherd. That means we're sheep. We follow. We don't lead.
That's right. That's right.
Listen,
wasn't making thought leaders, was it?
No, not really.
No.
Does the culture of
that is the real difference. That's the right now. Do you know? This is a factoid for you.
Okay.
There are more people in India with college degrees than there are people in North America.
That does not surprise me.
because education has been honored there forever.
Mm-hmm.
And when the British took over India, there was a gentleman named Lord Macaulay who went over to India to figure out how they could destroy the culture. He came back and he said, well, went before the Parliament, he said, what I've noticed was there was no beggars, and everyone was educated in India, and everyone was a gentleman. And I figure that the only way we can destroy their culture is to remove their Sanskrit educational system and replace it with an English one where we make them feel bad about themselves. That's an exact quote.
Wow.
That's how it's done.
So what you have to do is you have to get a lesser society to come and infiltrate your higher society that is based on...
with powerful weapons that
Yeah.
they can't stop. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's it. All you need. So might makes right is all the argument is for all of these people.
Mm-hmm.
They're just saying in a variety of ways, might makes right. There is no culture. There is no truth. There is no wisdom. There is no art, no beauty, no aesthetics. It's just power is everything.
Let me ask you a question. Based on the years of study that you've done, are the people of this planet from this planet, or has there been extraterrestrial intervention in the creation of the human race?
The Veda is very clear on this. They don't call them aliens, but they say that planets are seeded with human beings when the rest of life that's necessary for human existence is ready. And so it's clear in the Vedic teachings that planets are prepared for life, and then purposeful placing of life on the planet takes place, and then those humans are given the knowledge they need to understand why they've been placed on the planet. So according to the Vedic and Indian perspective, we were all placed here purposely by greater beings, whom we could call, if you'd like, aliens, beings from a higher plane of existence.
Or gods.
Or another level of reality. And they placed us here and then explained to us the process, explained that there's another realm that is beyond this one, that we're from, that we're visiting this one, and told us how to work with the laws of cause and effect, laws of karma, so that we could succeed here without causing excessive harm. All of that was taught, and since then it's become more or less degraded, and the revival of that understanding is what any thoughtful person, no matter what their background is now starting to head toward. What's sustainable, what's respecting, what understands the long view, and that if the universe isn't populated, then it's another bad joke.
How should we prepare the youth of today for the world of tomorrow?
Teach them to think. Teach them to become thought leaders and hold independent opinions. One of my favorite books is a history book called The Whitewashing of American History. Look it up. It's a high school teacher from Mississippi who proved in this book how history is distorted and destroyed by the American School Board Association in Texas and California in order to not disturb the minds of young people with the truth.
Lies, lies, and more lies.
That's it. And therefore, there's a saying in Sanskrit, Satyam Eva Jayate.
You know,
the truth will finally prevail.
The time for us is getting very short. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask you this question. In your opinion, what is the most important ability that is missing in most people's lives today?
Most people live only in the outer world and haven't learned to have an inner life. It's only possible to be independent and autonomous and strong in the face of what's going on in the world when your inner life is bigger than your outer life. And that is a learned skill. Learning to meditate is to go inside and have a bigger, more powerful, more durable reality than what's going on around you, so that you don't cave in and get overwhelmed by the forces that are around you.
And in your opinion, what is the most important thing that you have learned in all of your years searching for the truth?
I consider the highest thing I've ever learned is that our amazing form as human beings, us as male and female human beings, and the love we learn about by being on this planet is coming from the source of all beauty in a way that we've never imagined. It's just pure love and beauty. And it should never be made more complicated than that, never mixed with punitiveness or being wrong. If you distill the very essence of life, it is the beauty we've seen is the truth being right before us. If we follow it back to its source, then it will lead us to our highest state of being. And then we will be instruments of making more beauty in this world, and beauty is truth in motion.
Jeffrey, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us tonight. It has been a great pleasure talking to you, sir. And I hope that we have the pleasure of talking to you again in the future. But for tonight, thank you so much, Jeffrey. It's been a great pleasure, and keep the great work up, sir.
Thanks, Rob. I felt the same way. You're like my brother from another mother.
You've got that right, my friend. You take care, Jeffrey. And Exonation, visit this website, www.jeffreyarmstrong.com. That's www.jeffreyarmstrong.com. I'll be back on the other side of the news at the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Once again, Jeffrey Armstrong was my guest of this hour. www.jeffreyarmstrong.com. We'll be back. Don't go away.